Hi, welcome to Full Moon Film Buff, episode 21. This episode, we're going to talk about Werewolf in a Girl's Dormitory. I watched this for free on Freevee. I'd never seen this before. I really should have watched the Riff Tracks version. Let's talk about the prominent crew and cast. I could not find who was responsible for the makeup job. I am sorry. I really did look. Film historian Tim Lucas described Ernesto Gastaldi as the first Italian screenwriter to specialize in horror and thriller films. Barbara Lass's biggest claim to cinematic fame is that she was the first wife of infamous and talented film director Roman Polanski. Maurice Marsac had a pretty interesting life outside of his acting career. He was a member of the French Resistance during World War II and was a nationally ranked croquet player in the United States. Kurt Loewens was a member of the Dutch resistance during World War II and is credited with aiding the escape to safety of 123 Jewish children and 2 downed U.S. airmen. I do not recommend this movie. It is bad. I am very glad that I did not end up having to pay to watch it. The only interesting tidbit I could come up with regarding this movie is that weird song in the opening credits, The Ghoul in School, was only added to the American version's credits for some reason I could not find out anything about. So, let's review the synopsis. I thought it might be fun if, since this movie involves a girls' reformatory school, if I had one of my teenage daughters read the synopsis. So, here they go.
Let's get this over with. A new teacher, Professor Julian Olcott, arrives at the Reformatory's girls' school. He has a mysterious past, but swears to Headmaster Swift he was found innocent. A student, Mary McNearman, sneaks out of the dorm to meet Professor Alfred Whiteman, the teacher she has been sleeping with, in exchange for money. He is an absolute creep. She saves his love letters and now wants to blackmail him into letting her out. He can't do that, but is desperate to get the letters back. On her way back to the dorm, the werewolf strikes. Next day, all the girls are justifiably upset. One of their own was killed by a wolf, which is the police officer's story. Not unreasonably, there are wolves in the forest. Mary's best friend, Priscilla, finds the letters and knows Mary was blackmailing someone. She lets Walter, the janitor, and Italian Pete Lorre, doppelganger, thinks she wants in on that sweet prostitution money. In reality, she wants to know who the creep is. Instead, she meets Sheena Whiteman, the creep's wife, who wants Priscilla to keep her young and nubile temptations away from her man. Right, because it's the girl's fault the creepy old man is hitting them up. On the way back to the dorm, Priscilla runs into Octo, who is out trapping wolves for reasons he doesn't feel getting into with the student. They do flirt a little, which, yuck. Anyway, after they part ways, the werewolf attacks Priscilla. She is saved by Wolf, Walter's German shepherd. Wolf is a very good boy, easily my favorite character. Wolf injures the werewolf's right arm and drives it away. Meanwhile, someone sneaks into the Whiteman's residence, knocks Mrs. Whiteman out, and injects something in her arm, which kills her. So, now everyone is looking for a man with an injured right arm. Everyone suspects Walter, even though his right arm is deformed as a result of a birth defect, and it has been that way literally the whole movie, and before, according to Headmaster Swift. Walter is trying to find the blackmail letters for Whiteman, even though Whiteman totally abandoned Walter when the villagers in the bar thought he was the werewolf. In case it's not coming across, Whiteman is the worst out of a lot of bad people. Walter almost smothers, I think it was Sandy, but I'm not going back to check, while stealing the letters. He runs into a high tower trying to get away and falls to his death. Now Whiteman's secret is out. Sandy goes to tell Priscilla in the infirmary all this new goss and finds out Octal is visiting her. Turns out his right arm is injured, Sandy tells the headmaster. The headmaster calls Octal into his office. This is where we find out Octal's creepy backstory. I don't think the movie expects us to find it creepy. So, Octal used to be a doctor who worked for an insane asylum. He treated a teenage girl who had lycanthropy. Not the psychological kind, the grows fur and fangs kind. He says a whole lot of meaningless medical jargon, and he says he was working on a cure. He injects her with the hormones of a wolf's pituitary gland. Again, I'm not going back to check. Oh, and he loves her, which, yuck. She gets overdosed. It was unclear if Octal accidentally gave her too much or if she took a second dose. She lost her life, he lost his license, and almost his freedom. This is why he's trapping wolves. To find a cure for whomever is the real werewolf. By the way, the headmaster's secretary, Lenore MacDonald, was present for this whole story, so she gets Wolf, Walter's dog, because a German Shepherd is close to a wolf, right? She changed Swift to a pretty kinky-looking rack. If you haven't guessed by now, Swift is the werewolf. She gets a sample of the dog's pituitary hormones and, at great risk to herself, injects Swift. And it works! He's turned back into a man. Very grateful he won't be forced to kill. I was not sure why Lenore was worried Mrs. Whiteman saw something while she was out slut-shaming Priscilla. Anyway, the best dog, Wolf, breaks out of his cage, because he's having none of this. With Swift still chained to the rack, Wolf kills Lenora and runs off. I don't remember how Swift gets out of the chains, but he does. The next day, the school has a funeral for Walter. Swift tells everyone Lenore had to leave for personal reasons. Wolf is tired of the stupid humans, so he leads Priscilla to the shallow grave where Walter is actually buried. So who's buried in Walter's grave? Oh, that's where Lenora went. Priscilla runs to tell Swift she found Walter's body. That's when Swift discovers dogs' pituitary hormones only work for a little while. Swift transforms and attacks Priscilla. Octal saves the day. The end. Wow, that sounds better than the actual movie.
So, remember when I said this movie was bad? Yeah, this isn't good. The makeup is very simplistic. It's a few tufts of hair and some fangs and long nails. They didn't even film transformation. They didn't even attempt the old film dissolves. Instead, they cut completely away from Swift to a reaction shot and then cut back to Swift with a little more or less makeup on. I mean, they don't even try the matching cuts Werewolf of London pulled off 25 years later. And there's no werewolf lore in this movie. There's no mention of what causes Swift to change into a werewolf at all. There's no silver weakness. There's no special weakness of any kind. There's no sign the werewolf has any supernatural abilities, strength, agility, anything. Just a desire to kill, mostly teenage girls. So, I don't really want to talk about this movie. So let's talk about something much more fun, and that's riff tracks. This is the first movie I've watched that has a Riff Tracks version that I could have watched instead. For those of you that don't know, Riff Tracks is a group of very funny and talented creators who create humorous commentary tracks for for not just old, but they started out as for old horror movies and science fiction movies and that kind of thing. I am a big fan of Riff Tracks, and it definitely would have been way more entertaining if I had watched the Riff Tracks version of this movie. But that does raise an interesting question for me here, and that is, are the creators of Riff Tracks and the television show Mystery Science Theater 3000, are they being mean? Are they trying to have some fun at the expense of these movies? Or are they doing something else? What are the ethics of satire? So let's talk about that. But before we get into that, let's talk about why this might even be an issue at all. My general philosophy is that I like to like things. I'm an optimistic person who finds that life is way better and much more enjoyable when you are looking for the positive in life. It's kind of a karma thing. If you are looking for good, you'll find good. If you're looking for bad, you'll find bad. So in general, I want to look for good. I want things to be good. I want to like them. On top of that, creating anything is challenging. Right? Making a movie is hard work. Creating a YouTube channel turns out a little more work than maybe I thought it was. I'm having fun doing it, but it's certainly putting myself out there. And when you do create something and then someone comes along and makes fun of it, I can't imagine that that feels good. It might just convince someone that it's not worth attempting to create something, right? It's better to keep your ideas to yourself, not create anything where you can be made fun of. Since movies take teams of people, there's a lot of chances for someone to be affected by this kind of joking. And I want more people making movies. I want more people creating art, not less. So it seems like I might be opposed to the idea of satire at the expense of genuine, honest, artistic efforts. However, in interviews, Joel Hodgson, Mike Nelson, Bill Corbett, and Kevin Murphy have all expressed a deep fondness for the movies that they're making fun of in these commentary tracks. They recognize that a lot of these movies are being made under very hard and difficult circumstances, inexperience, low budgets, tight schedules, just all kinds of problems that make the process of creating difficult. The riff is more about finding something in the output that is fun and worthwhile and enjoyable than just saying the movie's bad and no one should ever watch it and just be done with it. In a lot of ways, the riff track guys are doing exactly what I'm talking about. They're looking for moments of hilarity. They're looking for moments of brilliance, even if those aren't the moments and they weren't intended by the cast and crew and writers and all of the people involved in making the movies. They're still there. They're mining these movies to try to make them into more entertaining and better experiences for the people who are watching them. Now, I can understand if someone gets upset, and a few people have gotten very upset at the riff track guys, but most people that have been riffed by the riff tracks team end up feeling positive about it. They recognize that thanks to the riff tracks crew, their movie has been shown and seen by a new generation and a new audience that never would have seen it before. And that's good. Their art is getting out to more people, maybe not in the way they originally wanted or intended, but it's still getting out there, and that's a good thing. So I wholeheartedly support and love the riff tracks teams. I don't know that I'm going to watch many. I might do the Twilight movies using riff tracks versions. We'll see when I get there. But right now, my general thought is I won't watch riff tracks versions. I'll try and engage with the movies as they were as close to originally put out as I can. The only defense that I can offer for almost every man in this movie is that the women playing the high school students at this girls' reformatory school are all built like Italian supermodels. Not one of them looks like an actual high school girl. So it's not like creepy in the sense that you could look, it feels like you're watching a grown adult man hit on a high school girl. It looks like a grown adult man hitting on a grown adult woman. But you know that they're playing high school girls, and that's what makes it icky. So I don't want to defend them too much. I did want to say that dogs are awesome, and Wolf is absolutely the best character in this movie, and that's all I have to say about that. So if you like lycanthropes, like, share, and subscribe. Keep your eye on the moon and a silver bullet in the chamber. We'll see you back here next time when we talk about Mad Monster Party from 1967. I hope to see you then. Have fun.